So we we are blessed to be able to share a video with the viewers of course, probably your most iconic song that you were a part of, and that's "Angels Among Us," of course, which was cut by
Mm.
Alabama. I've obviously I've done a lot of research on you. I've heard the story from your lips of how this song came to be, but I would love it for our viewers if you would tell us the story behind how this song came to be,
Oh,
so to
wow.
speak.
Wow. Shortly before Christmas of, whoo, I need to think about what year it was, of 1985. I started getting these terrible premonitions that something was going to happen to me. I was going to be in some kind of a wreck, an impact. I'd I'd be laying there in bed trying to go to sleep, and I'd wake up and my heart would be pounding, and I'd look around and say, "Well, I knew somebody was trying to tell me something." Anyway, my boyfriend and I drove back to Oklahoma for Christmas, and once or twice on the way from Nashville back to Oklahoma, I had this feeling, and he pulled over. And then then I felt, okay, let's go on. And then we had Christmas in Oklahoma, in Tulsa and in Bartlesville. My mom was still living in Bartlesville. We drove back to Nashville, and I thought, wow, it just must have been my imagination. Something was going to happen, and then it persisted. So it really came to a head the night before my birthday. My birthday, January 24th. So that less than a month after Christmas, I was making myself a birthday cake in the kitchen because I was going to invite people over for a party later that day, the next day. And a force took a hold of my arm and pulled me out into the front yard. And I was alone, boyfriend wasn't around. And I stood there by a little maple tree and I looked up at the January sky. It was just a deep, 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 like almost an unreal dark, dark, dark blue, and the stars were so bright. And I said, "What is it? What do you want me to know?" And a loud masculine voice said, "Be careful. This may be your last birthday." And
Mm.
I was like, "When what else? What can I do?" That was all the information I got. So, whew, I went back into the kitchen and I continued to make the birthday cake. And I thought, this might be your last birthday. And I thought, so that doesn't mean it's going to be. It has to be. Anyway, so that later that day, people came over to my house and we celebrated my birthday. The very next morning, my band and I got in our Dodge Maxi van. We were pulling a U-Haul trailer. We played a policeman's benefit in Albertville, Alabama. Had a wonderful, wonderful show. We loaded up, got back in our van. It was raining. We were driving back to Nashville. We were stopped at a four-way intersection on the highway outside of Albertville, Alabama. Our light was red. We were in our Dodge Maxi van. I was in the middle row back on the left hand side. And there was an 18 wheeler coming through the intersection who obviously at that time had a green light. And
Mm.
I thought, my God, if his light turns red, he's not going to be able to stop. And lo and behold, I felt Randy, our road manager, I felt him take his foot off the brake, and I felt us starting to go. And I got that same feeling, and I yelled to him, "Stop." He stopped. He just jammed on the brakes before he even saw the 18 wheeler, and the 18 wheeler slammed into the left front of our Dodge Maxi van,
Wow.
totaled it. The trailer spun off. We spun around, and then there was dead silence. And I thought, this is it. I thought we were all passing.
Yeah.
And then someone started to moan, and we all got out of there with just bruises, cuts, sprained ankles. We all went to the hospital. The police came. Um, the police said, "You're luckier than the last musicians we hauled." They took us to the hospital. They had hauled Ricky Nelson's musicians
Wow.
because that was right before the plane crash of
Yeah.
Ricky Nelson's band. They had played in Guntersville, Alabama.
Wow.
Anyway, to cut back to our situation, we went to the hospital. The police took us to a motel. We spent the night. Um, I I just felt like that was what my guardian angel was trying to tell me, and the fact that I was on sort of edge and on the lookout, I feel that it possibly saved our lives. A split second later, the police said we would have been broadsided. We would have all been killed. I mean, the 18-wheeler was speeding. And after the guy driving the truck, the 18-wheeler driver, we looked over and he went to a payphone. He didn't even come to see if we were okay. It was so bizarre. But so to get back to the song, I wrote down in my notebook, I believe there are angels among us. And I savored this. I savored it. I savored it. I worked on it when I'd go to
How long
Oklahoma.
after the accident did you write it down?
Right after
Okay.
I wrote down, I believe there are angels among us, and I had bits of the melody coming, and I savored it though. And guess what? I kept thinking, I've got to let this just come
Yeah.
from, okay. And it didn't. I got bits and pieces, and I wanted to write it. It wouldn't sound right as I if I was with my band at a stoplight and an 18-wheeler hit us and da da da.
Hmm.
I wanted to write something that people could relate to. And I also read that more children than adults see or hear their angels. So, anyway, to cut to the chase, I worked on it for 7 years. And in January of 1993, so that's 7 years after the accident, because the accident was January 1986, I called Don Goodman. Don Goodman is the first big writer who would write with me in Nashville. He gave me my moniker Beckaroo. We wrote Jones on the Jukebox together. We've had several other cuts together. I called him. I said, Don, I said, I've got this great. I had a lot of the chorus, but I didn't have the verses. It just didn't sound right to write it exactly as it happened. And I wanted to write a song that would inspire people. So Don came over. I sat down at my little old beat up baby grand piano, and I played him and hummed what I had. And I looked up, and he had tears running down his face. He said, Beck, I'd be honored. So we wrote it, and he said, Beck, you got to take this over to Randy Owen. And Alabama had cut two of my songs before. I Want to Know You Before We Make Love, which
Right.
was on their 40-Hour Week album. And then Conway Twitty later had a hit with it. And Christmas Memories, which was on their Red Christmas album, their
Right.
first Christmas album. Um, so I said, gosh, it doesn't sound like anything Alabama would cut. And he said, Beck, take it over there. I said, okay, I will. And I took it over there, and Randy called me the next day. He said, how did you write this song? How? And I didn't want to go on and on like I am with you. Sorry about this,
No, no,
but
no, please. This is great.
it's just too important not to just say
Yeah.
how it happened. But anyway, and they cut it, and they cut it that week. And it has been the biggest blessing in my career, and it has raised now. I just played the June Jam Songwriter Show with Randy and Teddy and Jamie Johnson
Hmm.
and Bryce Long and Lee Thomas Miller. And Randy announced at the June Jam, they were just shy of having raised a billion a bill it was at the time, it was like $900 million for St. Jude's. It was over that. So they have raised a billion. And then I've seen it since that they announced $1 billion for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital.
Yeah.
And they use that song as the theme song.
Incredible. Incredible. It's such an iconic song. The first line, just the first line of that song, like everybody knows what's coming when you hear the first line, which is I was walking home from school on a cold winter day. Um,
Yeah.
just one question before we play the song. A friend of yours has allowed us a copy of the video of you playing this song at the Bluebird, and I'm excited to show the viewers out there. But one thing that I love about songwriting is just the open interpretation between the writer and the song, right? It's that organic process. And in
Yeah.
this song, there's portions of the song where the lyrics are not being sung, but they're being spoken. Is that part of the songwriting, or is that part of the interpretation from the artist? How does that happen?
Oh, okay. Well, the way I'm singing it at the Bluebird is the way Don Goodman and I wrote it. It's all sung.
Right.
When Alabama cut it, yes, Randy spoke the first part of it,
Mm-hmm.
and that was all him.
Okay.
That was all him. And I thought, wow, but man, with an artist like Randy Owen and Conway Twitty and all the, all the great, great, wonderful artists that we've had through the years that are really unique and wonderful. They they have that instinct of how it will work for them to get
Mm-hmm.
it out there to the audience. And I'm still, when I do it, if as you heard on my video, I still sing the first verse because
Right.
that's the way it came. But I just woo.
So
And
when
have
you
you
when
heard?
you hear when you hear an artist's interpretation of your song, like, is there like, are you open to it as well? Are you like, wow, that's pretty cool, or do you get a little bit angst, like a little angsty, like, no, don't be changing my song?
A couple of times with other artists, I thought, why did he do that, or why did she
Yeah.
do that? But then I thought, well, that's if it was something like if they put a vulgar word in there or something
Right.
like
Right.
that, or really altered the message or something. But that hasn't happened to me.
Okay.
I've had so many wonderful artists. Conway Twitty, oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
a songwriter's best friend.
Right. Big time.
What a love. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're excited to have Becky here. We're going to show you guys a live performance from Becky doing Angels Among Us, live at the Bluebird, one of the most iconic venues on earth as well, I feel. You'll check it out. Here's Angels Among Us by Becky Hobbs.
I was walking home from school on a cold winter day. Took a shortcut through the woods and I lost my way. And it was getting late and I was scared and alone. And then a kind old man took my hand and led me home. Mama couldn't see him, though he was standing there. But I knew in my heart he was the answer to my prayer. Oh, I believe there are angels among us, sent down to us from somewhere up above. They come to you and me in our darkest hours to show us how to live, to teach us how to give, to guide us with the light of love. When life held troubled times and had me down on my knees, there's always been someone to come along and comfort me. A kind word from a stranger to lend a helping hand, a phone call from a friend just to say they understand. Now ain't it kind of funny at the dark end of the road that someone lights the way with just a single ray of hope? Oh, I believe there are angels among us, sent down to us from somewhere up above. They come to you grace us with their mercy in our time of need. Oh, I believe there are angels among us, sent down to us from somewhere up above. They come to you and me in our darkest hours to show us how to live, to teach us how to give, to guide us with the light of love. They guide us with the light of love.